Howdy, folks. Howdy. I'm Black Dragon, and I'd like to welcome you all to Black Dragon Biker TV. This is a special show we're going to have for you guys tonight. Honor and respect to everyone out there. This is the Black Dragon Roundtable, where we normally have people from all over the biker world that come in and hang out on the round table and talk to us about stuff. 1%ers, 99%ers. It doesn't matter. They all come here to chat here at the round table. So what we have going on tonight is something special. I'm going to bring it on quick. Bring this gentleman on. He has been gracious enough to bless us with his presence. You guys ask, I deliver. So I got asked a question on, what was it? Was it Instagram? A couple days ago, Black Dragon, basically, are you going to give us a show about how to turn our how to properly do the 501c with our motorcycle clubs? And I was like, well, there's actually a guy I've been talking to a little bit about this for quite some time. For you guys won't believe this, but for several months. And this is someone who's been watching my show for a while. I haven't yet asked him if he was a biker or not, but he's been watching our show for a while. And so I got that question a couple of days ago, and I said, you know what, man, let's do that. So it just so happened that he was watching the show we did about the Clubhouse, whether or not to get a Clubhouse. And he sent me a message about the same time I was getting ready to call him. So it's just how these universal things work, you know, how the universe works. So we're going to bring Mr. Matthew Nolan on. And he is going to, and so, hey, have your questions ready. You guys have been asking for this. Share this with folks you feel might want to know this. He's from Troutman Martin Law Firm up there in, I believe, Michigan or Minnesota, one of those places. He'll tell you. Up there, up north, you know where y'all are up there. And he's going to talk to us tonight about the whole 501c3 or 501c7 nonprofit thing. So we're going to talk about how to whether or not it's going to benefit your club, the levels in terms of the sequence in which you should approach something, like getting a 501c. I always say it wrong, 501c3 or 501c7. We're going to talk about how it could relate to your club, how to make it happen, the benefits, the pros, the cons, all of that stuff in the next hour. So I'm going to get right into it right now without further ado. And, you know, if you want to call in with a question, you can. If you want to send me your questions, you can. The folks that you know that might be interested, motorcycle clubs that you know might be interested, just go on ahead and share with them. So Jammin' Rumi says, well, come on, let's go then. You guys cut me no breaks, man. You guys are so ugly towards the Black Dragon. Hey, Matthew, what's going on, man? Hold on, let me figure out how to put you in here the right way. There we go. Hey, what's up, man? Welcome to the show. Hold on, let me take you off mute. Boom. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm glad we could do this. Excited to be here.
Your audio's sounding good, looking sharp, man. I appreciate having you. Listen, tell us a little bit about yourself and your law firm and how you happened upon Black Dragon Biker TV, you know, as quickly as you can. And we're going to jump right into the subject.
Will do. My name is Matthew Nolan. I'm an associate at Troutman Martin Law in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I think I was daydreaming on YouTube about how I want to go on a long motorcycle ride in the Southwest, and I was getting tracked by Google, and they suggested I start watching Black Dragon's videos, which I did. I found them fascinating, and as I started to realize that at Troutman Martin, one of our specialties is nonprofit. but the 501c7 would be an excellent fit for many motorcycle clubs. Came to find out I'm not the first person who had this idea. When I talked to Black Dragon initially, he was very familiar with the 501c7. It's not very popular among attorneys. There aren't that many attorneys who are setting those up. And I've just been watching and enjoying the shows. And think, part of what I try and do in my practice of law is support American business and American groups. So these motorcycle clubs are uniquely American. They got cool names. It's something very interesting. And so I wanted to be involved, and I'm happy to be here and help.
Well, listen, man, we appreciate having you on the show. So let's jump in with both feet and get them wet. First of all, you talk about this 501c7. Most people have never even heard of this. Everybody hears of a 501c3. So let's talk about the 501c3 and the 501c7 and how they differ and help motorcycle clubs.
Okay, a 501c3 is for a charitable purpose. It has to be almost exclusively for a charitable purpose, which means it does not benefit the members of the C3. It benefits whatever charity those members are doing. People are most familiar with this. In fact, the IRS is more familiar with this than any other, and they offer a lower price form called the 1023-EZ with a much lower filing fee. The problem is a lot of people just don't fit that definition. And I've seen a number of motorcycle clubs registered as 501c3s that are probably not actually charities. And this is a problem because they can come after those taxes that they would have gotten had you not been a C3. So the main benefit of a 501c3 is that you can solicit tax deductible donations for a charitable purpose. So a lot of people miss that second part.
So let me ask you, so most motorcycle clubs I know, including my own, we do a lot of charity work. We feed the homeless. We do bingo for elderly. We provide rides for the elderly. We build homes with Habitat for Humanity. Every first Monday or whatever, the Inland Empire chapter will feed the homeless. Every second Sunday or whatever, the Macon chapter will take book bags to children, whatever. So just because you're doing those things doesn't mean you're a charity particularly?
That's correct. Yes. You'd have to be doing almost exclusively that to be a 501c3. Whereas the 501c7 is a social club. It's for the benefit of the members. And what it basically does, there aren't nearly as many tax advantages as the C3. The C3 is for when you're going to get people donating, and it favors big donations. That's why big dollar things like the American Heart Association and hospitals, these are C3s. So they can get big money grants, big money donations. And then what you do as a C3 is then you send a letter thanking them for their donation and telling them what it is so they can do an above the line deduction on their tax return and lower their tax liability by the amount that they donated. So it's a benefit for the very wealthy. A C7 is just so that you're not in a worse position than you would be if you bought something on your own. So if you started like an LLC for your motorcycle club and then you charge people dues, you would actually have to report those dues as income. If you're a 501c7, you don't have to report those dues as income. And there are other benefits as well, but the primary exempt purpose is for social. So a lot of the motorcycle clubs, as you know, are 501c7s.
Those that do it.
Those that do it, yeah.
So the 501c7 is really made for a club that has a clubhouse and is doing things like that are not necessarily making profits from the dues that they're bringing in.
That's right.
They're not doing this for profits. They're establishing these clubhouses and all the various things that it takes to run a clubhouse. They're establishing this for social purposes.
That's right.
So as a social club, like a bridge club, motorcycle clubs hate the word social club, just so you know.
Okay. Recreational or pleasure purpose is
right.
What the 501c7 is for.
Yeah, and we hate that word too. We're a lifestyle. They don't have that 501(c) lifestyle club. But
we can just start calling it that. The IRS will catch up. Lifestyle club. That's what we do.
So, but for the social club purpose, like if you were an elk or a moose or
Well,
uh,
that's slightly different. That's a 501c10, and that's a much more substantial filing requirement. Those are chapters. That would be something like some of the really big old motorcycle clubs are going on the chapter and lodge system. That would be a much more substantial undertaking. You'd have to be a really enormous club to take advantage of that. And why don't we start with like where you start most people, which is how to form a club, and we'll try and go like
okay. So
linearly.
let's do that. Let's go in order of sequence where you would need to be by the time you would do any of those. So let's go ahead and take that on.
So I've been watching the show for a number of years, and Black Dragon talks a lot about how to get the club initially started. Have your 5 members for your officer positions, speak to the COC, get known, get blessed in, and then begin having your club. I think as you move along that track, you should
Wait a
be.
minute. Somebody that's been paying attention, get out of here. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Let me.
You should be at that point thinking ahead. What is the next step? And I think the next step after you get like a substantial number of members, or right away if you have the means or you feel like it, is when do I start to establish a limited liability structure? So it's get your group together and then decide when you're going to do like a limited liability structure. In Minnesota, all of the clubs here are doing Minnesota nonprofit corporations. Depending on what state you live in, you could do potentially a nonprofit LLC or something, or just a standard LLC, although you will have to pay income tax if there is any income. A little bit more work when it comes to tax time, but it's not horrible because I would say when you've attained maybe 15 members, you're in that 15-member range, and you're starting to think about, should we get a clubhouse? I think at that point you should be thinking about limited liability, because what the law does is they treat you as a partnership. If they decide that you're doing some shared purpose, in this case it would be, I guess it's a commercial purpose, even though it doesn't make money, they could call you a partnership, and then every person is liable for every other person's act totally. That's called joint and several liability. So you have like one knucklehead do something. If this is the classic example, you're held you're holding yourself out to be a club. The law treats you as a partnership. One member signs a lease and bails. Next thing you know, the landlord comes after whichever one of you is closest. And you say, well, there's 10 of us. We should split it up 10 ways. No. You pay 100%, and then you go find the other 9 guys and get your share. I don't have to deal with this. So you
Whichever
really
one's the
want to avoid.
whichever one's the closest or whichever one he feels has the most money, right?
Exactly. Yeah, whoever has the most money, who's ever the closest. So at that point, you're going to want us to think about limited liability structure. You have to be prepared for a little bit more compliance costs. It's not that bad. It's just another schedule on your tax return. If you use an attorney, you're probably going to spend around $500 to get it done, plus filing fees, which probably run around $150, depending on what state you're in. All very useful. Just it's about protection. So I think the way I want to frame this is it's not about loving paperwork because no one does that. No one loves paperwork. It's about protection. If you do nothing, you're open to attack from all angles. If you do something, you can start to minimize your risk and isolate your risk. You know where you're going to be attacked, and you can just defend those areas. And for what I've seen watching these videos is these MCs are definitely under attack. They're getting surveilled, they're
Mm-hmm.
getting pressured. Really, I think if you're going to do this, you need to be thinking, how do I protect myself very early on?
Mm-hmm.
And so I would say LLC, some type of limited liability structure comes first.
So what is an LLC?
And LLC is limited liability company,
Mm-hmm.
and that provides a lot of flexibility, whereas a corporation is just a little bit less flexible, but still not bad. All these MCs in Minnesota are going Minnesota Nonprofit Corporation, and that's perfectly fine. No problems there.
Okay.
I think also another thing to think about around that time is, do you want to register this MC name as a federally registered trademark.
Mhm.
And I'll just tell you from my experience, we do trademarks for people who have no business before, brand new business. They don't know if it's going to work. They do a trademark just as a matter of course. And I really agree with this because if you're brand new, getting confused with someone else can be a problem, even if all you're doing is selling like t-shirts. It sounds to
Okay.
me, based on the videos I've watched, getting confused with another motorcycle club can cause an even much larger problem. So you don't want to start creating rights and goodwill in a name that conflicts with someone else's name. And so you can do a clearance opinion that can be like as little as $400 depending on where you go to make sure your name isn't somebody else's name. They have great search tools that we use to just see, even if people are just having Facebook pages, we get to see those, make sure there's no that are a problem. And of course, if you've been around for a really long time, then I think you should definitely get your name sorted out because you don't want. It's so easy for there to be problems. I'll give you an example. I live in Minneapolis, St. Paul. They call them the Twin Cities. There'll be like a plumber call himself Twin City Plumbing, and then another
Mhm.
plumber call himself Twin Cities Plumbing, and they're fighting each other, and they're not millionaires, and this all could have been avoided, you know. So this is
Funny thing, funny little story. We had two Black Sabbath chapters in the Twin Cities, one on each side.
okay.
So for us, it was easier to sort. But yeah, we're familiar a little bit with the Twin Cities. So carry on,
Are
my
they
friend.
calling them? Okay.
Yeah, they were both Black Sabbath.
Were they both Black Sabbath? They weren't Black Sabbath Twin City and Black Sabbath Twin Cities, were they?
No, they were actually Minneapolis and St. Paul. Minneapolis and St. Paul. We would always get them mixed up, but
Okay.
yeah.
So around that time, the limited liability structure starts to become something that you're thinking about. I think you should think strongly about IP. Also, I've looked into the different clubs that's been mentioned on this and other channels, and the number of them that do not have federally registered trademarks, I think, is a bit concerning. It's
Mhm.
a simple process. It's not terribly expensive. It's easy to do. You get a great little piece of paper you can hang up in the clubhouse that says I've registered my trademark, and it just solve a lot of problems. I think you have to be careful about what attorney you use because you only get rights the mark when you use it. So if you register the mark as a charitable purpose,
Mhm.
but you're using it for a social club purpose, you actually haven't achieved anything. You don't have any protection in what you're actually doing, which is your C7 purpose. So that's just something to think about. Anyone who's been mentioned on this or other programs as legendary bike club, please get in touch with me and so I can look over your stuff, make sure it's done right. A lot of clubs are done right. A lot of one I have some concerns about. But anyway, back to the new clubs. You're getting there, you're doing limited liability structure, you're deciding about your intellectual property. I think at the point that you have a clubhouse, at least 15 members and a clubhouse,
Mhm.
I think at that point you should be really thinking about 15 members, a clubhouse, and a limited liability structure if you don't have one already. You
Mhm.
should really be thinking about tax exempt status because you're having income at this point. People are paying dues. There's a lot of community feeling, a lot of goodwill. Um, Time to start thinking about how do I protect some of this income? How do I protect myself from overzealous police, from IRS, all this type of thing?
Mhm.
So I think at that point, that's when you're thinking tax exempt. Now, I've already discussed C3. If you do tons of charity and you're a social club, there's nothing that prevents you from having a C3 and a social club. I know there are plenty of the bigger, older motorcycle clubs that have, each individual clubhouses and then like one big charity for any purpose. So that's
Mhm.
something you could think about doing. That could be something that all of the clubs do together. There's one Black Sabbath MC C3,
Mhm.
and there are many small C7s. Very possible.
Okay.
I think at the point when you're in that territory, that range, if you reach that level, you have a clubhouse of at least 15 members, you have limited liability. At the point that you have a business that is closely connected to the club, I think then you really ought to be on your way towards tax exempt status. And I'll try to explain why I think that is. So the C7 tax exempt status, like I said, means that you can all put money in and don't have to, that's not income to you. Okay. So you can imagine a scenario where there is a club that has a business that employs a number of club members. You could pay them, that's all income to them, and then
Right.
they can put money in the club. Or if you handle things appropriately, you can do a qualified corporate sponsorship and just put money into the club from the business. So skip that level of taxation. So
Wow.
these are like really helpful things, you know.
So
Uh,
if you got a smashing T-shirt business that the club is running, and heck, you got an auto mechanic or a motorcycle club, a motorcycle mechanic shop that you're running, and you've got money coming in several different ways. The clubhouse is making money off the bar or whatever the case may be.
mhm.
You could potentially skip levels of taxation by having yourself set up correctly.
Those benefits will present themselves, and they are
Oh,
different in different states.
before we go any further,
Yes.
I need your statement, your
Oh my, yes. Thank you
yeah,
for reminding me.
yeah.
Okay,
I
I
just thought
appreciate
about
that.
that.
Yeah, I blew right past it in my notes. So I'm only I'm doing this to give you legal information and not legal advice. So to get legal advice, you'll need to be a client of Troutman Martin Law, and you're welcome to contact us and sign our legal services agreement. But until then, this is merely legal advice, not to be relied upon. And that's not merely just a statement. That's realistic in terms of the way different rules are in different states. And we'll discuss that as we continue. Thank you for that reminder.
No, that yeah, I have to put that out for me too. This is not legal advice coming from Black Dragon. This is just legal information too.
Legal
So,
information.
all right, now let's. As I was saying, you could potentially avoid various tax obligations by being set up the right way.
Yes, and it's different in different states. One big one, in some states, you don't have to pay property tax on your clubhouse. That would be enormous.
Yeah.
If the house, if you own the house and it goes up in value, you don't have to pay capital gains tax if within a certain number of years you convert that money into a new, bigger clubhouse.
Like
So
we saw one clubhouse that they probably bought for about $85,000, and by the time they sold it 25 or 30 years later, this one major 1%er MC, their clubhouse was worth over $1 million.
yeah, you'd be paying capital gains tax on the difference if
Wow.
you're not a C7. If you are a C7, then you don't have to do that as long as you convert that entire amount over to a new clubhouse. At that point, you could, I think it could be true that you could do two clubhouses at that point, as long as they were both for the exempt purpose of lifestyle, not
Yeah.
social and recreational. Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Absolutely, man.
Now, there are some downsides, right? The problem
Mhm.
is compliance goes up. There's more paperwork to be done, and there are certain limits. So let me just get back to my notes here. So
Mhm.
35% of the gross receipts of the club have to be from members. Now, what's nice about this is that includes members and their guests. So if you have members and their guests only, that is all counts towards your 65% member income. The 35% is from non-member sources. That's maximum 35%. Now that can include passive income like investments. It can include non-members coming into the club, and you do pay tax on that 35%. Now you have to be careful that you don't do anything that's called non-traditional. You can't have more than insubstantial non-traditional activity. Now
Mhm.
that's tradition not based on motorcycle club. It basically has to be if it's not social club related, then it's non-traditional. So even though it might be traditional to have a tattoo shop or a motorcycle mechanic shop or some kind of personal services, that is considered non-traditional. And if it exceeds more than an insubstantial amount, you can lose your tax exempt status. So you have to make sure that is separate. So if you do have strong merchandise sales, probably got to start a second LLC to handle your strong merchandise sales.
Man, there's so much to this. Holy
There is
moly.
there is a lot to it. Now, so you can't do things like long-term rentals. You can't do off-site liquor and these type of things. It all has to be done for the tax-exempt social purpose. So there are ways that you do this. And so to further elaborate, as I said, it's mainly about protection, and you'll know how you'll be attacked. And you're going to be attacked by them wanting to take away your tax exempt status. And you can simply follow the IRS rules. They do this for trademark. There are the trademark examining procedures, and I follow those when I do the registrations to make sure I'm not going to have problems, make sure it's a success for the clients. The IRS does it. They print out this little audit, the auditor's guide. You can get your own audit guide.
Show me that. The auditor's guide. Okay.
Yeah, you can get your own audit guide and then just follow it. And then you know what they're going to do. The auditor's going to come
like go off script, or must they follow the script pretty much?
Well, they're going to be following the script. It's going to be like, what do I do when I arrive at the clubhouse to decide whether or not this is a social club and it keeps its tax exempt status? And so that's just like an example of how you would do that. So like a member and a member's spouse, that's membership income. Members and their guests, that's membership income. So as we're going along this kind of time frame, by this point in time, you'll have an idea about how much of your income comes from members versus non-members. So you'll know like how far off are you? If 180% of your income is coming from non-members, a C7 is probably not a good choice for you. If 70% of your income is coming from members, you're only 5% off. Probably with a little bit of paperwork, we can get that number down to 65, and now you can get tax exempt status. So you have the tax exempt status, you have the limited liability, so there's a slip and fall or anything like that at the clubhouse, you're protected. So they can only take the assets of the club and not the assets of the club and all the assets of the club members. So this is just like pretty standard, like business formation kind of a thing. So let's see. Any other questions? Anything you want to talk about before I just keep going?
No, keep going. I'll stop. Okay. I'll butt in. Okay. This is good stuff.
So one of the things you really want to avoid is the general public. And again, that's anyone who is not a club member. Even though I'm sure all the motorcycle clubs see themselves as not civilians, from the IRS perspective, you're general public if you're not a club member. So you want to be careful about who you advertise to. You cannot do things like membership for a day. That's not allowed. You also you have to be careful about different levels of membership, because you are not supposed to have any, there are not meant to be benefits inuring to any shareholder or member. So that's the difference between an LLC, the big difference between a for-profit and a nonprofit is, if the for-profit goes up 1,000 times in value, you can split it up among the members and be wealthy. If a C7 goes up 1,000 times in value, you can't do that.
But you could theoretically pay them all a salary.
Oh yes, you can be paid your fair market value. Absolutely.
Okay.
So that's great.
All right. So in that way, you could give it back to the members.
Oh yeah, you can pay the members the fair market value for services provided. You just can't get the upside value. So if you were like in the Bay Area and you bought a clubhouse in the 60s and now it's worth $20 million, right? You can't just retire. You have to somehow come up with a way to split it up among the membership to play with it.
Well, but you could give everybody a $100,000 a month salary, perhaps, or something like that. Or is that?
I think that would have to be the fair market value of their services.
Of their service. We'll make them all CEOs. All right. But, in the old days, the Black Sabbath Motorcycle Club was doing so well, that our mother chapter, that we actually paid the members.
Right.
We paid them to run the clubhouse, and what their dues were paid by the club. All the club runs were paid for. The rooms were paid for. Every single solitary thing in association with the club was paid for. So a nonprofit would handle that, could handle that well. I mean, the club is going on the run. The social club status is paying for the run, paying for the rooms, paying for the food. So would this be in order? Or does this sound like it would be in order to you?
Yes, I think a lot of that would be useful. There is something kind of odd about travel tours, but I think a travel tour that is part of the exempt purpose, which is obviously a part of the motorcycle club purpose,
Mm-hmm.
is something that the club could pay for. But that would be like a very specific question that I have to look into very specifically. But yes, that's exactly the type of thing you want to do. So, and there's no reason the C7 doesn't mean it's small. It's just more accessible than a C3. So I gave the example of the Balloon Knights. They have like 20,000 members in their C7. If they charge 20,000 people $50 a month, that's $1 million a month. So it does not have to be small.
Wow, that is wow. Yeah, we got about 20,000 members too. Yeah.
So the paperwork goes up. I mean, that's a downside, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, and I was wondering, because this is crazy. A couple years ago, that motorcycle club actually, I believe, put their secretary in jail. I think she got arrested for. I got to go back and look. Don't let me just put that out. But I think they had a legal issue that had something to do with embezzling some funds. So now we know now we know how much money that they had to embezzle from. Holy moly! Okay, so but hey, listen, that is a very. So I got to clean this up. That's a very incredible organization. I actually hung out with them for some time here in Georgia when they had a big party here, and I hung out with them, and I really did enjoy myself. So every club has problems, so this is one way to keep it straight. So let's move forward. How do we continue to make our clubs great?
So at this point, if you have all of these things, you've decided to go with the tax exempt status, you're going to have to do some additional paperwork. Now, they lay all this out for you. This is well-traveled territory. I just want to go over it with you just a little bit. So wherever there's a group of 8 or fewer and at least one is a member, the IRS is going to treat that as if it was member income. The assumption is that it's member income. Where there's 75% or more of a party are members, they're going to assume that's member income. When a payment is made by a member's employer, which is also one of the excellent benefits of the C3, when the club has like a related business, that's considered member income. So that 65%, a lot of that is member income. And then so as you're doing your club, if as I said, if a bunch of your stuff is coming from members and their guests, or you could just tweak something and quit taking money from non-members and just let the member pay for his guests, the C7 is under no obligation to find out where the member got that money. So that's how you would handle that. Now, in every other situation, the IRS presumes that it's non-member income. So you have to keep records showing that it was the member who paid or the employer who paid. Keep some records showing that there were 75% of members were at the club. And where these assumptions are not met, you have to, how many people are in the party? What are the number of non-members at the party? But if there's a class of non-members, for instance, another club, you can treat them as one group. The total charges, you want to make sure you're not running someone's credit card who's not a non-member. That stuff will all come up in an audit. And some other difficult problems are like gratuities. If non-members are giving gratuities, that can cause issues. Of course, if they're giving them in cash, right? I mean, you're supposed to be reporting
like our strippers that come on the pole. I mean, but yeah, never mind.
So there's all the same problems that normally just takes place with tax compliance, right? You want to be careful about. I already mentioned the sale of property. That's a really enormous one, especially for the old clubs, because property values can go crazy. Imagine if you had a substantial property. I mean, you have millions of dollars all of a sudden overnight, and that's going to be 50% of that's going to be gone, right? Just in taxes. So you definitely want to avoid that.
Right.
One-time events can put your exemption in jeopardy. So there's like several levels here. What puts the exemption in jeopardy? What is taxable? These are two separate things. One-time events that
Hmm.
generate lots of income can put the tax exempt status in jeopardy. So like if you do like some kind of a run every year, that's too frequently, unless of course that's reserved for members and their guests. So you have to just be careful about how you advertise these things.
Hmm.
But like if you did something once every 10 years,
Hmm.
someone died and that raised a lot of money, you would have to pay taxes on that money, but it wouldn't put at risk your exemption.
Okay.
I think I briefly covered the qualified corporate sponsorship and how, if there's a connected business, it can just take its money. So rather than like pay uh, 10 club members who work for the business their salary and then have that paid to the club.
So
The
let me think. Oh, go. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, the club, I mean, sorry, oh, I shook my thing. The business can just spend like $2,000, give it to the club as a qualified corporate sponsorship.
Hmm.
That's an expense on the business side, so they've lowered their tax liability a little bit. It's non-member income on the C7 side, so they pay a little bit of tax on it. But you can see that there's enormous benefits here. So tax planning potential goes up. Goes up.
So, so let me think about this for a second. So many clubs have runs that we do,
Mhm.
runs every year, so forth, so on. And many clubs have an annual party. Some clubs parties are so huge they actually bring in thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars.
Mhm.
Now, is there so am I understanding that you can have a for-profit side of your LLC as well as a nonprofit side of your LLC, and
Yes.
therefore not damage your business? Just put the right thing on the right side.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes, that is what you should do. If you have strong merchandise sales,
Hmm.
if you have
What?
big party stuff like big party events, all that type of thing should be on a
So
for-profit side.
so when you're gonna so whenever you see yourself approaching more than 70% of your income being derived, or 65% of your income being derived by something else, you need to move that to your for-profit side.
Yes, and you can do a wholly owned for-profit LLC where the C7 is the owner.
Okay.
Yeah. Or you can just do a separate one for the club members who are involved. There's a lot of ways you can handle it. But yes, I'm glad you brought that up. That's definitely important.
Okay. Let's move on.
Or I saw recently one of your episodes where, a person, something about a furniture store. The club bought a furniture
Yes.
store.
Yes.
Okay. Do they sell furniture as well as have it
No,
as their
no,
clubhouse?
no. They just
Oh,
bought an
okay.
abandoned
Oh, they
furniture
just,
store
okay.
and turned that into a clubhouse. If you know how big furniture stores are, with the 400-foot tall ceilings and stuff. So they have a just, I've never been there, but I've heard that and I saw a video of it. It just seems like something magnanimous.
Yeah,
So, I've got to figure out how to do something better. I want a cathedral, damn it, so
that would be good. There used
yeah.
to be a club I went to that was a desanctified church, and that was actually pretty nice.
Oh, there are many motorcycle clubs here that have bought churches. There was one very famous club that had a church for a long time, and they finally moved into a warehouse, which was bigger. But yeah, here in Atlanta. So yeah, a lot of them buy churches. So let's move forward. What else we got?
Well, so that could be a thing you think about at the beginning as well, whether or not to do tax exempt.
Hmm.
I think in that episode you said, well, why don't we buy a business?
Hmm.
Totally possible. Buy a
Hmm.
business. Be in a for-profit business with your club brothers. Support your MC on the side. Let it continue to be like a thing you do that isn't super organized and make
Hmm.
money. And then you can do the C7 later if you're all going in together on a business. They don't have to be wholly owned. One can come before the other, but I think trademark should probably come first. Limited liability should be close on the heels. And then once you're at that level where you have a clubhouse, or definitely if you have a related business, I think it's time for tax exempt status.
So if we think about it, I think we were talking, and you said in the beginning, run under the radar. Uh, that's until you get up where you're doing something.
Well,
It's
yeah, I mean, if you have 5 guys and the clubhouse is someone's garage, probably not a good idea to raise your profile to this level because you're just going to create lots of compliance issues for yourself before you're ready to deal with
Mhm,
them. And
mhm,
it probably isn't even a money-making endeavor at that point that would require like tax liability. If you're just getting together and having some beers with another 6 or 7 people. This
mhm,
is for when you're getting to that level where your profile is so high that you need to think about being targeted,
mhm.
and that's what the limited liability is for. That's what the tax exempt status is for. How to
All right.
defend, how to know where the avenues of attack. So let me just go through real quickly. Like I went and I reduced the audit guide
Mhm.
to just a few bullet points. So this is the thing that's really sets into motion like the IRS auditor thinking they're not going to succeed in taking away your tax exempt status.
Mhm.
Number one, members only. That should be on the door. So that it's right in their face. This is for members only. They're going to review your articles and your bylaws and your policies. So if you have unwritten things, probably keep them that way. Bylaws will have to be filed with the IRS. So I think there should be bylaws for voting and then other
Oh,
cultural bylaws.
right.
Cultural style bylaws, I think, should be separate. They're only concerned about
So you
voting.
don't want to have you don't want to have the if you don't give our colors back, we're going to burn them off your back bylaws over at the IRS.
I don't think that's a good idea. Yeah.
All right.
you th-
Understood.
this is interesting. I'm only going to say it one time as I just want to let it sit. But the official position is no written policy with discrimination on the basis of race and religion. Country might be okay. There should be admittance procedures. It shouldn't be like a public place. Key cards
So
would be ideal.
let's go back to that one for just a minute.
Okay,
Um, so if you're gonna turn those bylaws in, there, there's no you shouldn't have a written policy that they're not going to give you a 501 if you've got a written policy of discrimination.
that's correct.
But
If they find
I
out you have an unwritten policy of discrimination, they're probably not going to give it to you either.
okay. So, but I have also heard as we were going through ours to get ours done, I also heard that you couldn't have a written policy of sexual discrimination either. Is that true?
I'm seeing race or religion. I know that there are one of the
This was in California at the
okay.
time, so that
I'm
might
not
be.
sure. In Minnesota, there's a pretty substantial uh, C7 at the University of Minnesota. That's the women's club. So I'm not sure about gender orientation.
Okay.
There should be admittance procedures. It should look like a private building. It should not look like a public building. Key cards, a key. I'm sure that's not a problem for these
So
places.
they're actually going to come and audit to see if you have members only on the door, and if you've got a window you open up and ask to see the decoder ring, they're actually standing around and like, hey, they let that guy in. Do they do that?
Well, the thing is, priority one, avoid an audit. That's step one.
Okay.
Once they show up, yeah, they're looking to get you. So you want to have these things in place. And these really are helpful things. I think there's a lot of the things that you said on your show. It's like it should be members only. It should be for it should be for the purpose of building the brotherhood. It should be focused on writing. It should not be for the public. You should not be going to bars if you have your own clubhouses. You should be going to each other's clubhouses. This is like all very well suited to the C7. They might look at your minutes from your club meetings. So these should be like fairly official looking and not just contain like personal dramas and stuff. So you have to be aware that you are
Wow.
putting yourself under the radar.
Of
So
the
you don't
government.
want to, yeah. So you don't want to do that until you're ready, but you're already under the radar. So like at the point that you've like registered your LLC, they kind of know that you're around. If you've painted the thing red and white or purple and gold or yellow and red, they obviously know what that is. So like you need to like you should realize like they know what you're doing. And at that point, that's when like your profile is less of a risk and
Hmm.
it's time to do one of these type of things just to protect yourself because you know what they're going to do. They're going to try and see if you have members only. They're going to see if you have a key card. They're going to see if you have this. Have those things. You paid your money. I'll send a letter. I'll
You,
call
you,
the IRS. Right.
you know, we're almost prepared for this because we have to deal with alcohol, tobacco, and firearms. We have to deal with ABLE, like in Oklahoma, it's ABLE, alcohol beverage licensing something. We have to deal with code enforcement, and we have to deal with vice in all of our clubs around the
Right.
country. And a lot of this we're already ready for. We already
Mhm.
know how this works. So it's just a higher level of but it's the same that we've already been going through. So it seems like the federal government is really making you MC because it's really making you be a strong MC, uh, concentrating on the things that MC should be concentrating on, as you just said,
Yep.
riding your motorcycle, supporting your brothers, supporting your club, supporting your clubhouse. Wow, I think they should be applauded for that. Although they don't do much, they should be applauded for that.
Yeah. And
Okay.
you bring up a good point. The premises license, you'll need to be careful at the point you get the clubhouse. That might be another point at which you want to consider going C7. I've looked into it and it's pretty complex. It's almost city to city,
Mhm.
whether changing a residence from like a residence to a C7 purpose is changing it from a residential to a commercial purpose. And if that's the case, who knows what happens? Now,
Mhm.
is the fire marshal coming in there all the time? Do you have to make the bathroom the toilet a certain height? I mean, do you have to put a ramp in? These are things you want to know before you've put the down payment on your awesome new clubhouse.
But would you need to do that in a private club? Do they force a private club to have a handicap bathroom?
I think it depends on where you are.
Hmm.
In Minneapolis, there were specific requirements for there's a million different residential levels. Office residential 1 through I want to say 1 through 12. And then there's just residential. I don't even know how many. There must be dozens of them, And if you're a C7 and ORC1, then you need to have freight accessible. If you're a C7 or if you're a club, they say club, not C7. If you're a club in ORC2, then you need to have like a freight door or something. So you don't want to get wrong with these, you know, that could really sink you. If you need to put a ramp in or need to change a bathroom, need to do some kind of major renovation, you're going to want to know that before you buy or select your clubhouse. So maybe I should say the clubhouse is really the time when you need to think. Try to think in the future. Are we going to be C7? If so, maybe we should talk to an attorney to make sure we get our club in the right spot of town.
Yeah, I was going to say that before a clubhouse, maybe you need to just be thinking about do we have our attorney we can afford? Jesus, there's a lot to this.
It's incredible how much of a pain this type of thing is. It really should not be this difficult, but they make it this difficult. They want you to pay those fees. They want you to do all that type of thing.
Hey, Goose says, what is, wait, he said, wait, an ORC2, what is that?
Oh, that was office residential. So
That's the kind of residential that's
that was
of the 12 kinds that there are. Yeah.
the zone. Office residential 1, office residential 2, office residential 3.
Very interesting.
Yeah. So I think you said on one of the recent videos, forget how you put it. Was it that? I think you said get your clubhouse, make sure it's in the ghetto or something like that. Is that
Yeah,
what you said?
I did say that.
What's interesting is all of the clubhouses there's several of the 1%ers who are within like a couple blocks of each other in North Minneapolis. There's like the Mississippi River, very heavy industry. Then there's the highway, and in between there must be some kind of very lax zoning. So that's where they are. They're 3 blocks away from each other. At least 2 1%er MCs.
That is kind of a typical thing that I've seen across the country. Like in Las Vegas, you'll see all the MCs stacked together, kind of like that in the same kind of area. I've seen that a lot. So maybe I've not been fortunate enough to find that where we have put our MCs, but yeah, I've seen that a lot in a lot of places. That like one club will move in, and then they'll just stack them next to each other
It's got to
having.
be a zoning. It's got to be a zoning thing. Almost certainly. Now, you can also monetize different parts of your club. Let's say you had a great spot in a big parking lot. The parking, like you're charging people for parking during the day or something, that's subject to the unrelated business income tax called UBIT. So you can do all that type of thing. You can monetize your stuff. You just have to make sure you keep your percentages right.
So we had a clubhouse here in Atlanta that was across the street from the stadium, and people would use the clubhouse to park for stadium parking. So that would be something you could monetize as you're charging those people for parking. You could monetize that.
And the C7 situation, you probably have to create a separate LLC for that.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, absolutely, do that.
Wow, awesome.
Let's see. Oh, one of the many important things you have to do is make sure you enforce the rules of your club, which, based on my viewing of your videos, that's an important part of this. So if you're going to have the rules, you have to enforce them to keep your tax exempt status.
All right, Sergeant at Arms out there, you heard that, right? Okay.
Oh, then this probably like the last thing I'd like to revisit trademark at the end, just because I think that's a thing that a lot of people are ready for, is the premises license, the liquor license, gambling. I guess the Sunoco Club, based on the story I read, they're trying to come after them for some kind of gambling restriction. I couldn't even think of what that would possibly be, but like having like pool tabs or a raffle, this is like really granular stuff that's like all the way down to the county and city level. So you just have to be careful about that thing. But number one is, I think, as you said, only have members and their guests. Then you don't have to worry about too many people. That'll provide you with a little bit of a cushion if you make a mistake for a little while. Maybe you shouldn't have had pull tabs or something. Now you can get your stuff together before it becomes an issue. But you need to be careful about that. Premises licenses, American with Disability Act problem, zoning, liquor. I think you said it, like in Oklahoma, it was only $1,500 for a liquor license.
Right, but in California, it was like $26,000 or
right.
something.
Exactly.
Yeah. I've seen it all, and Oklahoma, and here in Georgia, there are 2 or 3 kind of licenses you can get. You can start with the beer and wine, which it might be like $6,000 or something, but the full liquor license is some kind of god awful $30,000 or something, and then you can't have any felonies and all kinds of stuff like, well, gee, hell, no one can partake, and then a strip club license is even something totally crazier than that, which, I've always desired to be a.
I'm not familiar with that, but I can start looking into it if you want.
Yeah.
I could do some research on that for you,
yes,
John.
sir. No, I'd probably get murdered and buried. So that time in my life is past. But anyway, because everyone knows who would get me. All my club members already know. Yeah, okay, try it if you want to. So
if you're a really big club, you could do something like a C10, and then you don't have these 65% restrictions. But that would really be limited for like some of the really big old clubs. Some of those clubs, I'm sure, have got a variety of business interests. That would be for if you have multiple business interests or you want to have your own. I think one club has got its own like motorcycle part. I'm sure that's true of a variety of others. That would be like when you're really getting into some serious business type of things. You want to finance.
So you have multiple chapters. You have chapters all over the United States of America. You got multiple business interests. You got several hundreds or maybe several thousands of members, and you're just really doing it on that level. Now you're looking at the C10. What was the C8?
C8 is for when you have benefits for your members. That's like, life insurance and stuff like that. Elks Club, or those have what's the Shriners? I think they do insurance for their people. Those can be enormous. There's one in Minnesota that's like the Lutheran something or other. It's huge. I mean, it's like billions of dollars. They do health insurance for like all of the pastors of the Protestant religion or something. It's enormous.
Motorcycle club health insurance. I need to get into it. Wow. Okay. My goodness. Wow. That's a lot, man. Uh, so what, I mean, hell, we're right at an hour. I mean,
Right.
you have just punched it in there. So what else? Are you finished with your notes or is there more?
Well, that was it for my notes, but I just would like to reiterate for people who have already passed these landmarks, there's no reason to not do them now,
Mhm.
you know. And I would say trademark is the lowest hanging fruit. So I see like the clubs mentioned on this and other channels, and I look them up and I'm like, ooh, that's not the right class of goods, or man, they've been around that long and they don't have one. Uh, you should get one. I'll take care of that for you, and just avoid like tons of confusion, and make sure that that name is yours.
Mhm.
I think I was following some political guy, and someone asked him, "What do you think about IP?" And he said, "I'll take as much as I can get," and that's how I feel about it. So that IP is yours. Let's get it locked down for you, so
IP
that you're
means intellectual properties for those who don't know.
yeah, intellectual
Uh,
property trademark. In this case, it would be federal trademark registration. And I think I've come up with a strategy where if you have to get federal trademark registration, you need to have a use in interstate commerce. A website is not good enough. But that does not mean that you need to have two clubhouses in different states. But if you do have two clubhouses in different states or two chapters, then we can totally take care of that for you real quick.
well, so with all this information, you and your law firm can do this. You can do this
Yes.
in just about any state or something like that, or
Yeah, we can do the C7 and C3 IRS applications in all states. We can do federal trademark registration in all states. We can do a limited amount of business formation in some number of states. And we can always associate with local counsel for the really finicky stuff like premises licenses and liquor and gambling.
so for my listening audience, this is the Troutman Martin Law Firm over in Minnesota, and I should have known where it was in the beginning because we actually have had two clubhouses there at one time. This is attorney Matthew Nolan at 612-644-3837, 612-644-3837 at M Nolan. That's Martin, Nancy, Oscar, Libra, Alpha, Nancy at Trout Law. And trout is spelled like a trout, right? No,
No.
Traut law. The other trout is the other trout at troutlaw.com. So it is Matthew Nolan, 612-644-3837, M Nolan at troutlaw.com. So you guys can check them out and check him out. Ann Squirrely said, can we keep him? So if Ann Squirrely likes you, then that's really cool. And, you know, tonight's show, we wanted it to be information packed, how to turn your MC into a nonprofit 501c3 or 501c7. And I think we have determined that for most motorcycle clubs, you want to be a 501c7.
Yes.
We know that there's our C8s and they provide benefits and things like that. And they're for bigger organizations that might have benefits like health insurance or maybe death insurance or something like that for their members. And then we know that C10 is for huge organizations that have multiple chapters. So, I mean, you can get to any one of these things. C7 is really made for the social club like us. The C3 we know is if you're focusing on doing charities. Is there like a C4, a C5, and a C9?
Yeah, there are a ton of them. There's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I think it goes up to like 12. And then for veterans, there's a whole other one. For veterans organizations, there's a whole other ton of them, you know?
Wow.
Yeah,
And
some of those other C4 is like for political action. So I didn't bring up those ones because some of them are like farming collectives. There are a bunch of weird ones. And depending on how profitable your club is, you should mix up, your for-profit and your not-for-profit.
Mhm.
Have both. You can do a lot of things. I just think, again, just to reiterate, I like what all of these people are doing. It's really interesting how well organized this whole MC world is. So I wanted to be a part of, protecting it, helping everyone like make this thing last. And there's a lot of this is like well-worn territory. We can really do some stuff to help you just avoid issues and even avoid issues within, because we have to do all the voting and all that. We can avoid issues without, because we can make sure you're not, or we can at least know who you might be confused with if we're doing
Mhm.
trademark, and just a lot of great things that can be done.
Well, I want to also say that um, uh, uh, this is really really good for me to hear all of these things. This has been really an educational show, um, and the overall purpose for you doing this with your club, the overall benefit is to provide tax shelters and keep more of the money for the club as possible. Is that correct? Is that a fair statement?
I would say that might be more the case if you were going C10.
Mm-hmm.
I think C7 is more about protecting the brotherhood. It's about
Okay.
making sure, it's about protecting yourself
Mm-hmm.
from auditors, from, as I said at the beginning, if you do nothing, you're vulnerable to attack from every direction. If you start taking these just kind of standard business legal things to isolate and minimize risk, you know where you're going to get attacked, and you can simply defend those areas, make it way harder for the police and IRS to try and shut you down, because you've got a very well accepted structure. Insurance will be easier. Your law, you'll have your relationship with your lawyer. All of these things are going to make it just way tougher. And any friction that you can create between you and them, I think, is really going to slow them down.
Now, I have to let everyone know that in full disclosure, uh, Trout Law has become a sponsor of our show here. So it's important that you guys know that. But I believe that uh, you guys know me long enough to know that I don't bring any BS kind of people or stuff like that on the show. I hope that you find this information really great and helpful information for yourselves. But we absolutely do appreciate their sponsorship and appreciate this information that they brought to the show. Let me ask you this: the folks want to know, do you ride a motorcycle?
I have ridden a motorcycle, but not in a long time. But I would like to more frequently. In fact,
Yeah.
if I'm planning on telling the law firm that it's critically important that I be
Yes.
provided with
They
a
need they need to get you
motorcycle.
a motorcycle right
I'll
away,
just
man.
I'll just show them this part of the broadcast.
Well,
The clientele demands it. I mean, I
yeah,
need it.
Aunt Squirrely said that you were a keeper, and Derek said, Derek Warrington, one of our great folks that are on the show all the time, says if he rides, this guy is a total keeper. So you ride, we just need to get you back riding. So anyway, Goose says simmer down. It's not a dating show. Oh, my bikers. Listen, I just want to thank you for being on the show. And absolutely thank you for this information. This is, nobody knows how to do this. So many clubs we struggled with this um, for many years. It took us so long to get our first one done, and then because we didn't have any legal advice, we've lost. We did the 501c3 the first time around, and it was just horrible. We didn't know how to manage it, didn't know how to do it. But you hear nonprofit, and the first thing you think of is a 501(c)(3). That's the first one you hear of, the 501c3. That's what you always hear about, and that's where everybody runs. And so this is spectacular. Now we know that what we probably should be doing is a C7. So anyway, I'd like to thank you for being on the show. Any closing words?
No, I just really appreciate you having me on. It was great to be on, and I look forward to looking at more of your videos and maybe doing another one of these episode soon, hopefully with updates on one of the successful C7s we do for one of your viewers.
Absolutely. That would be really great. You have a great night, man. Thanks for showing up. Really appreciate you. Thank you. Well, man, I liked doing that show. I hope that you guys share it. It is going to be really cool. We're going to be hitting this guy back, and Mr. Matthew Nolan, we're going to be hitting him back. And I've talked to him about a bunch of things like intellectual properties, trademark, over the past couple days. He's been watching the show, and he's been watching the show because he can quote the shows. And to me, that's exciting because he has taken a passion and an interest in this American culture of biking and protecting the culture. And I would say more than a passing interest. I would say he's actually, if I could show you the emails, this guy's been hitting me up for a while, and I've been kind of like, putting him on the back burner a little bit because we've had other things come through. But then one of the subscribers said, "Hey, are you going to ever do that show?" And I was like, "I got just the person." And then he came on and he absolutely delivered, man. So a good lawyer, a good law firm. I mean, if you're bringing in money and you're doing stuff, you got to protect yourself. We got, and he talks about other things like insurance and stuff like that. You got to have the brotherhood, sisterhood protected. And, unfortunately, however you want to say it, it costs money. But the downside is, like he said, if you have no protection, you are vulnerable to attack from every side. The more kinds of things you do to protect yourself, the less vulnerable you are. So I think that's important. And it was important having him on the show. To me, that was been one of our better shows in a while. So I'm hoping that we do this again. Kay Wayne says this was a seminar you could have filled an auditorium with and sold tickets to. Damn, did I miss out on that opportunity there? That hurts. But you guys know that we do this for you all, man. I want to make the show such that we improve the MC lifestyle of us, of what we're doing, and we protect it as best we can. CYA all the way, says Aunt Squirrely. We appreciate you. ML says good info. Need to get a real estate person to tell or advise us on how to get a building or land to get to the clubhouse. Absolutely, man. Absolutely. So let me see. So I'm getting ready to play my commercials as I'm out of here, guys. We will. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to open up my grab bag that somebody sent me with all of this grooming stuff for my beard. I expect my beard to be incredibly groomed for the next several months as I have received this amazing bag of gifts. And I want everyone to be able to see the gifts I've gotten. I feel like a kid on the playground. So tomorrow is, what is it? Labor Day or something? One of these days. Is it Labor Day or Memorial Day? It's Labor Day, I guess. So I want you guys to enjoy your Labor Day. When you're like me, I don't know what day it is. I don't know whether it's Sunday or Monday or whatever. I just don't know. So, but this is one of those holiday things. I will be on in the morning, I suspect. If I'm not on, I took the day off, but I expect me to be on in the morning. So we're going to be there Monday through Friday. We do Monday through Friday, 10ish. And then of course, Sunday nights, the Dragon's Lair, we do the Black Dragon Roundtable, and we had a great one tonight. Love you all. Thanks for 7 years of this. Really appreciate you. I'm Black Dragon. that's my 2 cents. Thanks for tuning in and get skinny. So this is my newest commercial that I just created right here. Okay, so if I do this right, boom. Okay, let me see. Check this out.
If you are seeking clarity about issues stemming from problems or crises occurring within your motorcycle club, then set up a consultation with Black Dragon. Black Dragon has over 30 years of experience in the motorcycle club world, having served as a national president of the 50-year-old Black Sabbath MC Nation for nearly 10 years. Black Dragon is a veteran negotiator, skilled in crisis management, conflict resolution, inter-club issues, press conferences, and club reputation management. You can set up an appointment to speak with him by phone at clarity.fm/black-dragon. Get the clarity you deserve to help make your MC the best place it can possibly be. Set up an appointment with Black Dragon on clarity.fm/black-dragon.
Prepare yourself to take the helm as president of your mighty motorcycle club by delving into the pages of Black Dragon's newest book, The President's Bible, Chronicle 1, Principles of Motorcycle Club Leadership. There you will learn to advance your skills in applying the 14 scientific principles of leadership similar to those taught to officers in the United States Naval Service. Available in hardcover, paperback, and ebook. Get yours today on Amazon, Kindle, or order it at your local bookstore. Order your autographed copy from blackdragonsgear.com. Be the best motorcycle club president you can be. Get the book.
Get Black Dragon's first book, The Prospect's Bible, to learn how to join a motorcycle club. It has been an Amazon #1 bestseller for the past 7 years and is required reading for over 3,000 motorcycle clubs worldwide. This book is a must-have for new people venturing onto the motorcycle club set. It will teach you how to prepare yourself for service to the motorcycle club nation and show you how to qualify a motorcycle club to be worthy of your service. Available on Amazon, Kindle, and for order at your local bookstore. Get your autographed copy at blackdragonsgear.com. Be the best motorcycle club prospect you can be. Get the book.
And of course, you guys know I love these rings. My sister accused me of having demonic rings. How you gonna accuse me? She told me she was terrified of my rings, and she said each ring was more demonic than the one that I would previously put on. Each one was more terrifying than the previous one. And I don't understand how she could say that about my rings. My rings are cool. You know, you gotta have some cool rings if you're, these are my rings, man. So if you like rings, like I like rings, biker rings, you can go here to Gothic Rings, gthic.com. Just like with the soap company, if you use your discount code of Black Dragon, you get you a very cool discount, 20% in this case. I like the Medusa ring, man. They got some very cool rings here. They got Masonic rings, So use these folks. They got pewter and all kind of stuff, silver, actual silver in these rings, and they've got stainless steel rings. Man, their rings are the bomb. I like them. I wear them. So get you some. Get you some, man. Get you some.
You are fake news.
Black Dragon Biker News Network. Biker news you can trust.
Biker news you can trust. Biker news you can trust. Biker news you can trust.